Hello and welcome to the Calmcast, a time to feel calm and think clearly. I'm Claire Downham, the Queen of Calm, a transformational life coach. I was a burnt out head teacher who finally made the journey to calm after years of trying, and I want to prevent you from having to do the same. The Calmcast is a series of short explorations, gently guiding you back to your natural state, which is calm and clarity. Just listen like you would listen to music, with an open mind and curiosity. There's nothing else to do. Now let's relax into today's episode. So today I'm considering reacting. I guess it might turn out to be an exploration where we compare it with responding. But let's think about reacting. Why do certain things set us off? And trust me, I have my things that set me off as much as the next person. But have you ever wondered why some things really you quickly react to? They seem to, it's like, it feels, I know, like somebody's flicked a switch inside you and you're not in control. And maybe you're not. Maybe you're not quite as in control as people would have you believe, because I really do think there's kind of two factors that come from the way we function psychologically that pretty much decide why we do anything that we do. And that's first of all our thinking, like the thinking, not, I don't mean this thinking that we're doing right now, that just our way of thinking, our conditioning, our rule book, our belief system, all of that is a major deciding factor in terms of how we react to things differently to other people. You know, you can put two people in exactly the same situation and they will react differently. And that is because for one person, that might be a situation that doesn't really bother them. And for another person, it's something completely different. And I often jokingly talk about the number of emails in our inbox that, you know, some people will react very badly to having more than about 10 in their inbox. My fiance is one like that. And other people really can have thousands in their inbox and they're not really bothered. They're not reacting to it. The reaction, I guess, would be that the minute you got to 11 emails, you'd feel the need to deal with at least one of those to take it back down to 10. Whereas somebody who's got thousands, they're not reacting to that at all, are they? So there's this rule book that we've learned, and I think it is helpful to consider the nature of that rule book, that belief system, where it comes from and why we seem to react to some things and not to others. It's just this created collection of thoughts that have come from things people said to us, what we got in trouble for when we were younger, where we got humiliated or embarrassed, things that where we made a mistake and we got into massive trouble for it, or whatever it was. We got some rules, we put some rules in place, and those rules seemed to be a means to keep us safe. The problem is that we are still applying those rules in a completely different situation. That's why, you know, that's why we do what we do, and why it doesn't work out very well quite a lot of the time, because we are using a rule system that is stopping us from living life in the moment, really, because it's the thinking, that's the past stuff, that stops us from just being present with what really is. Let's take, a great example is public speaking, because that's something that lots of people don't like. I'm not one of those people, by the way. I quite like it, but I know lots of people don't. And if at some point in your childhood you stood up in class and read out your beautiful poem that you composed or spoke, read out loud or whatever, and it all went wrong and the whole class laughed and the teacher was a bit like, "Oh my goodness," then of course that it felt really awful, did that? It wasn't nice and it felt uncomfortable and a bit of our rule book got put in place at that moment. The belief that it's not safe to stand up and speak in front of other people, so we'll just go through the rest of our life avoiding doing it because it didn't feel nice and we don't want to feel like that again. It completely makes sense, doesn't it, when you think about it? But the problem is that that situation where that rule was learnt no longer exists. It's gone, but we're still running the same. And that can stop us from doing things that we really might like to do. Like it might be that we might think, oh, public speaking is going to be amazing for my business. I'll probably get more clients if I do it, or I'm going to get this promotion if I do it. But we're not doing it because that rule is sitting right in the way of it all. So that's the one part of it for me is the thinking system, the rules, the thoughts, the things that come into our head, and then the other part is where do we think our feelings are coming from? And I feel like there's often like an awareness. I call it the awareness junction. It's a made up it's a made up phrase, but I quite like it. There's like an awareness junction. So there's it's a bit like when you come to a fork in the path. And depending on where we think our feelings are coming from, we'll decide which thought makes sense. That's because there's thoughts just whizzing across our heads all the time, aren't there? Across our awareness. So in the moment, if I think, so for example, let's take our relationship with another person. Well, let's take that public speaking, actually. That'd be fun because we've been talking about that anyway. So let's take that public speaking. So I am asked to do a talk for my business or at work or whatever. And in the moment when we are asked to do the talk, and we kind of, it's our boss, so we kind of, oh yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then we go away and we feel a horrible feeling coming up. It's uncomfortable. It feels our heart's pounding, our palms are sweating, we feel very anxious. Even contemplating planning the talk just starts off this horrible feeling. Now, if we think that horrible feeling is coming from doing the doing of the talk, then of course it makes sense to find a way at this awareness junction, this fork in the path. It makes sense to find a way based on our belief system. It makes sense to find a way to get out of that talk. Horrible feeling is coming from the talk. So I need to get rid of the talk to make the horrible feeling go away. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it, really? We don't, mostly as human beings, we just want to feel nice. So if we think something's causing us to not feel nice, we will address that appropriately. Or not appropriately, but it'll look totally appropriate to us. It's all innocent psychologically. Now, at that fork in the path, there is an alternative path when we understand something different about our feelings and where they come from and how they work. And that is when we realize that our feelings are coming from thought in the moment. When we realize that at that moment we're running this program, there's a lot of thinking going on, and it's that riled up thinking that's creating this awful riled up feeling in our bodies. It isn't the talk. It's just some program that's got stuck in there and it's feeling awful. Now, there's just a different experience at that junction of realizing it's I'm not okay. I'm caught up in something here. I'm not feeling okay. So the fork in awareness, the junction of awareness, when we realize our feelings are coming from inside us, from the program that's running, then for me, that generally means that I know I've got to give myself a bit of space, I suppose, a bit of time or whatever. But coming from that place, something other than avoiding the talk will come to mind. Finding a way to chunk it down into an easier task, not Not reacting by just saying, no, I'm not doing that, but giving ourselves a bit of time to settle, knowing that that settled place is really what's innate. That's really our natural state, is the settled state of mind, our well-being, really. And when you realise that at this sort of junction of awareness, when you realise that it's not the outside world, it's the inside system working, even that's just settling, because you don't have to do anything. It is just your system working perfectly well in an attempt to keep you safe from some imagined fear. So that's a little bit about reacting. I feel like there's probably a lot more to say about this, but it is just awareness. It's just noticing, and understanding what's going on in your system. That's fundamentally what is amazing about this conversation, is when you understand that's how your system is working, then it is just helpful in moving away from reacting and more towards responding. Thank you so much for listening. There's nothing to do now but bring some awareness to how this is working out in your life. Listen regularly to experience longer and longer periods of calm. This has been the Calmcast with Claire Downham, Queen of Calm. Take care and keep listening.